Battle Game in 5 Seconds is an anime that's airing this season, and it's an anime that I thought I was going to hate, but it turns out that it's actually pretty awesome. Although in a turn your brain off anime kind of way, where I can just kick back and relax while I watch this kind of stupid but awesome anime. So I wanted to share my thoughts on it with all of you, and maybe give some of you a fun anime to watch this season. So what's Battle Game in 5 Seconds about? Well, it follows a middle schooler named Akira, who plays video games all the time to escape from his boring reality, and is also really good at them. He's also a little bit of a genius. He finds tests at school extremely easy, and always gets the top score on them, because he sees tests as games, and since he's so good at games, he's good at tests too. And Akira is like if you took L from Death Note and made him into a gamer. He even likes eating sweets to stimulate his brain like L. And one day Akira gets attacked by a big guy in a trench coat, but he manages to beat him, and right after he does beat him, he gets killed by a mysterious cat lady named Mion with her arm cannon. And the next thing he knows, he wakes up in a room with a bunch of other people who also died, and they're all told that they've been removed from the National Registry, so the world thinks that they're dead. They're also told that the reason they're here is to participate in a game, where they're all given a unique ability and they have to fight each other in various ways. And that's about it. That's the plot. Akira has to fight different people who have powers with his power, which we'll talk about in a minute, and it's a very fun anime. Everyone has a unique ability, and they have to go through various challenges that involve fighting. It's basically like the Hunter exam from Hunter x Hunter. Each program, which is what they call each round, has the characters doing a different thing. Like the first one is a one-on-one fight, then the second one is a team fight, then the third one has multiple people and factions fighting for points, since the people with the most points move on to the next round. So it keeps things interesting, because every time they beat a level, they move on to a totally different level. And it all feels like one giant video game. Each person gets a power, and they have to clear levels in order to beat the whole game, which makes sense why it feels like a game with a title like Battle Game in 5 Seconds. And the abilities are all pretty interesting, but I think Akira has the most interesting ability. So Akira gets the ability that whatever his opponent thinks his ability is what it is. So for example, he convinces the first person he fights that his ability is that he can turn his hand into a cannon, which is the same ability that the cat girl Mion, who brought them all here, had. Now while this ability might seem overpowered at first, it's actually a double-edged sword, because if anyone finds out about his ability, he'll be completely useless in a fight, since they'll know that if they just think he doesn't have an ability, he won't have one. But this ability works really well with his character. Since he's really smart, he comes up with ways to convince his opponents that he has a certain ability. And it makes each fight about a lot more than just punching the other person until you beat them. The characters have to use their head to come up with different strategies that work with their ability to beat their opponent's ability. And another thing that I like is that the full extent of each person's ability only gets revealed when they use it. Like in the second round, it's a team battle, and to strategize, Akira's team decides to reveal their abilities to each other. Obviously, Akira lies and says that his ability lets him turn his hand into a cannon, but the other characters tell each other what their abilities are. But you quickly see that some of them might have only revealed part of their abilities, because in one of the fights someone reveals the full extent of their ability, and when they revealed it, it was really exciting, and it makes for some really exciting moments in these fights. But in the recent episodes, they seem to be just revealing what everyone's ability is, where text will pop up on screen saying what the ability is, but it goes by so fast that you have to pause it to read it. So this could be an aspect of the anime where maybe it would be better to go and read the manga, since you'll be able to read what all the people's ability are, because you can't pause a manga, it's just a book. But I do hope that they keep the full extent of each person's ability a secret until they use it in a fight, because it makes it super interesting and exciting when you know just as much about a person's ability as the main characters. So if they do find a way to keep revealing the full extent of everyone's ability in the middle of a fight, I think it would make the fights a lot more enjoyable and exciting. Now, another main character that gets introduced ends up becoming friends with Akira, and her name is Yuri. And we find out that a lot of bad things have happened to her up to this point. She lived with her mom, who was always sleeping around with a lot of guys, and one day she brought home a random guy who happened to have a daughter. And Yuri very quickly realizes that this guy's daughter has been treated really badly. Like, for example, Yuri came home from school one day and no one had given the girl any food. And when Yuri does give her some food, she completely scarfs it down. And Yuri ends up growing attached to her and wants to get back to her to protect and take care of her. Also, Yuri hates when things happen by chance because she's had so many unlucky and terrible things that have happened to her just by pure chance. Like how she happened to talk to a guy from another school who was hurt and be nice to him, but then he happened to turn out to be a stalker, and then one day Yuri happened to see that her stalker was going to commit suicide by jumping off of a roof, and she decides to help him even though he's a creep since she doesn't want to see someone die. And when she tries to save him, he grabs her hand and jumps off of the roof with her so they can die together and be together in the afterlife. But when she wakes up, she appears in the room with all the other people. And when she asks why they were all chosen to participate in this game, she's told that they were all selected at random, and they just happened to be chosen. Then in Yuri's first fight, she's to fight against someone who is essentially a cross between an ugly bastard and a Chad. Like, his face is ugly, but his body is ripped, so I guess that would make him a Chadly bastard? So anyways, this Chadly bastard, who's really creepy, like so creepy that his power is that he can smell what the other person is feeling, and he gets turned on from smelling her fear and hatred towards him. He also gets naked for the fight, but that's not important. What is important is that Yuri just happened to get put up against this creep. But while she's fighting, she decides that she's had enough of these random bad things that have happened to her and kicks the Chadly bastard's ass with her power to quintuple all her physical abilities. But because of all these bad things that have happened to her, she feels that she has no control over what happens to her in life, so she hates when bad things just happen by chance. And while to an extent this is a turn your brain off anime, it's actually done a pretty decent job with the characters. Mostly Yuri. So far she's had a lot more character development than Akira. Akira is just a kid who's good at video games and is really smart, but I'm sure he'll get some more character development as the series goes on. But this is an anime that, depending on the direction it goes in, it could actually become a lot less of a turn your brain off anime. But at the same time, what I like about this series is how fun it is, and how I can just chill out and watch a kid who's good at video games kick some ass with some superpowers. But I don't think it's a bad thing if it also tries to be more than just a turn your brain off anime. Oh, also in case any of you were wondering what the in 5 seconds part of the title means, it refers to the countdown to when their wrist restraints that they woke up with come off to fight. So every time a fight is going to happen, a countdown from 5 seconds starts. And at the end of the countdown, their handcuffs come off. Think of it like a fighting game where it says 3, 2, 1, fight, but it's 5 seconds. And this is also another aspect that makes it feel like a big video game. So overall, Battle Game in 5 seconds is just a fun turn your brain off anime. I went into it expecting to hate it, but it's actually really fun. And this is what Darwin's Game should have been. If you don't know what Darwin's Game is, it's an anime about people playing an augmented reality game where they each get special powers and participate in different games that usually involve fighting. And it's an anime that I absolutely hated, and it's actually the first negative review of an anime on my channel. But what they should have done is exactly what Battle Game in 5 seconds is doing. And if you want a fun turn your brain off anime, then Battle Game in 5 seconds might be for you. And if you've enjoyed this video at all, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed and liked the video, since it helps me out a lot. So anyways, I'll see you all next time in my next video.